Hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Trentini, and today I decided to do something different for my life reclamation project Substack, and that I invited someone that I've connected with before, and excited to find out more about death doulas because you can't have grief without a loss of some kind. And TJ is here today, who also writes on Substack. I'll provide all those links in the post, but I wanted to learn more about what a death doula does and why we should be working with one. So, welcome, TJ, to my very first video on my Substack.
Hi, Sherry. I am honored to be the very first guest.
Well, thank you for coming and
Yeah.
thanks for being here. So, you were one of the first people that I had followed when I came onto Substack because I, of course, wanted to see who was talking about death and grief. And I immediately was attracted to what you do and how you write and all of that stuff. So, would you like to start by sort of giving a definition as to what a death doula is?
Sure. Death doulas are also sometimes called death midwives. And
Okay.
so it's really, if you know anything about birth doulas or birth midwives, it's kind of a similar thing. We are there to support, um, first of all, the person who is dying. We're also there to support the family.
Okay.
So that can encompass a whole lot of stuff. Different death doulas do different things. I do bedside sits, like if someone is actively dying, I can sit with them at the bedside to give the family a break, to give the person someone new to talk to. I also was a massage therapist, and so I can do a little bit of massage, and I'm comfortable with touching people.
Yeah.
So that sometimes is what the dying person wants, and it's really all about what the dying person wants. If they just want to sit and not talk, we
Yeah.
can do that. Um, Other death doulas will help the family with errands or cleaning or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do much of that. My bigger focus is on sort of pre-need. So before people are actively dying, well, actually, we're all actively dying, but
Correct.
you know what I mean? Before someone's actively dying, really to help people get their ducks in a row. Um, because there are so many details about dying. We think, oh, well, we just die and I'm gone and that's it.
Right.
But really, death planning isn't for you, it's for your loved ones.
Exactly.
And
So,
yeah.
sorry. And that's, I think, where I love how you approach your writing and how you talk, because you're wanting to be not to be abrasive when it comes to like talking about death, but it is the big pink elephant or black elephant in the room that we
Yes.
don't want to talk about, even though it is something that everybody's going to experience. So, how how does that show up when you tell people what you do?
Well, I get a lot of silence and confused looks. I can stop conversations in crowded restaurants when I say I'm a death doula.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people are intrigued. A lot of people go straight to the, oh, I don't know how you do that. That must be so hard. And as much as I can, I say it's not hard. It's not morbid. It's not depressing. It's actually incredibly life affirming
Oof.
for me to work with folks who are facing death head on.
Right.
Because like you said, 10 out of 10 of us are going to die.
That's right.
And 100%. And unless you get organized around it, it actually could impact you negatively, like as you're dying and you think, oh crap, I forgot to do that. I didn't tell that, I didn't do that, right? All of these regrets that people have, but also, the people who leave behind,
Yeah.
your kids are going to be pissed if you don't have a will,
Yeah.
or if they can't find your passwords, or if they can't get into your computer. It creates chaos. And that's one of the things I really want to prevent. I want people to be able to grieve their person. You know, this all goes into what we were talking about earlier with grief.
Yes.
I can't grieve my mother properly if I'm pissed off at her because she didn't say where she wanted her ashes to be strewn, or because I can't get into her bank account because I don't have the passwords. And
Yeah.
that not being able to grieve, I think is, as you know, it's a really painful thing, and it will come back in the future.
Absolutely. It lingers. And I just saw a social media post that where, within hours of somebody dying, right away the process starts about the questions that you can't answer because you're not asking those questions of somebody who is actively dying because they may or may not be able to share that information, or they may not be present enough to do that. And
Mhm.
then suddenly you have to bypass the emotional part because stuff has to happen immediately.
Right. It has to happen right away. Which funeral home are you going to call? What are you going to do? Are you going to have the person embalmed? Do you want to have them washed and dressed at home? All of those questions, and not to mention the financial impact that that
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak badly of all funeral directors, but a lot of them are a business,
They
and
are.
they're not interested in saving you money when grandma dies.
Yes.
They're going to say, well, wouldn't you want your grandma to have the nicest casket? And if you would talk to grandma, she would have said, oh, hell no, just put me in a pine box. I don't care. Right.
Right. Yes.
And so there are unscrupulous funeral homes out there that will just take advantage of people in that terrible, terrible time right after someone dies.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's, whether it was a sudden death that, people react differently, whether it's a sudden death or a long coming death from like an illness or something. But they're both situations where you're not in your right mind. You really
Mm,
aren't.
that's right.
Your person has died and you're just in kind of a black hole of what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's a really difficult place to be. And that's part of where I can come in too. As a death doula, I can call the funeral home. I can make sure the family is getting what they need and not
Mhm.
anymore. I can talk about money when a lot of times people aren't comfortable talking about money. Well, I loved my husband and I'd want to get like a cheap casket because that won't show my love for him. And it's like, we can talk about that.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
So, what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you able to sort of facilitate more decisions and create more of a plan with the person who is maybe not actively dying, that and because they are able to have these conversations and make these decisions with a compassionate person that isn't their family member? Is that are you bridging a gap there? Are you filling a role that a family member can't do as
That
effectively?
that is a perfect way to put it, Sherry, because I do facilitate. I don't share opinions really on what you want to do with
Yeah.
grandma's body or her funeral or any of that stuff. Um, but I am there to help like you said, to bridge that gap because there is so much that so many of us don't know about, right? Because we don't talk about death. We don't understand. And when we've been to funerals, if you go to a funeral as a guest, you go, you give your condolences, and you're maybe sad because you knew the person and liked them or loved them, and then you go home.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't understand the vast planning that goes around it.
Yes.
So yes, my goal is to facilitate those conversations
Yes.
and to be direct and say, what is it that you want when you die?
Mm-hmm.
That's that's the question.
I think it also helps too because we are now, I would say our generation has acquired more things than perhaps my grandmother had. So there's a distribution, and maybe they haven't downsized to a point yet, but that, you know, I remember growing up watching soap operas where they have the reading of the will and it's all very dramatic and everybody,
Right.
this person gets this. And of course, all fiction.
Right, right. Doesn't
But
happen like that at all.
exactly, exactly. It's more now like, did they have a will? Where the hell would it be? Like who's the executor? Like who do we call? There's a
Right,
lot of
right.
questions. It's kind of like your lawyer and where your will is and what banking information should be on your emergency contact list. Um,
But where's that?
exactly.
It should be on the refrigerator right next to your DNR and your DNI if you have those, so that when the medics come to get you, they
Yeah,
don't resuscitate you, right?
exactly. So there's like I can't imagine like even just not even knowing, but I can just running through my own experience with family losses and the decisions and the all the moving parts. So I love the fact that you can be with somebody through this whole process and give them the space and the family the space again of having to make some basic decisions,
Hmm,
but
hmm.
to have that, as you said, you call yourself an educator, a death educator, a death coach, an end of life coach. But
Yeah,
death
for
is the
people who
common
don't like the word death, yeah.
yeah, but death is the common denominator here. And
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
there's so many there's so many decisions that have to be made.
Hmm.
It is startling, right? It
Yeah,
is absolutely startling.
and I think that, particularly as people know that they're dying,
Hmm.
they want to talk about it. And part of my role is to give that person permission and to help give the family permission to listen instead of saying, "Oh no, mom, the doctors, we can get you on a trial, drug trial. We can, the doctor can come in and try a different thing." And mom says, "You know what? No, I'm done."
Yeah.
And, more power to her, I say. And, that's someone who's thought about it. And, to give that person permission to say, "Yes, I'm going to die.
Hmm.
And here's what I want to happen.
Yeah.
Here's the important stuff to me.
Yeah.
And I want to share that with my family."
Yeah.
And so for me, so much of it is just about breaking open the conversation and saying it's okay to talk about this.
Yes. And we
It's
should.
it's not just okay, it's necessary that we talk
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
It's necessary that we talk about grief. It's because it happens. And if it
Absolutely.
hasn't happened to you yet, I was talking to a woman the other day. She's 28 years old. And we were going around the table. It was a death dinner. And we all brought up a person who has died in our past that we wanted to honor at the dinner. And she said, "I don't know anyone who has died." And I was astonished. Like, how do you get to be 27 years old and and not know
We're
somebody
talking, she still has living grandparents and
died? Yeah.
wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So, not sure why I brought that up, but yeah,
Everybody has a semblance of what grief,
right, right. And so for her, it's going to hit hard
yeah,
when she finally does. Most of us had our pets die or something when we were kids.
sure.
My goldfish died when I was 6 and I was devastated, and it was goldfish, and goldfish die. But that was my first encounter
Yeah.
with death, and I've had many, many since of my own personal life. And then, but being able to witness with people as they're going through it, or as their person is dying, or after their person has died,
Hmm.
that it's, as I said before, it's really life affirming to me.
That's
It's not
amazing.
depressing at all.
That's amazing. So, when would you recommend people start, I don't know, jotting things down or I think we should have the conversation. It should be I know from my own personal experience, you said about being able to shut down a restaurant's conversation with saying you're a death doula. Heck, 10, 11 years ago, when I started telling people that I was a grief coach, it would be like, uh, Pardon?
Right.
What is grief? And then, or, ooh,
Mm,
run away, because we don't want to talk
yeah.
about that.
Right. I'm going to be
So
sad. I'm going to
yeah,
cry if I talk to you.
right. That we just can't hold space because people need help with grief, but it's not something that, I think breaking down the generational patterns of being able to talk about grief, talk about the emotional pain, talk about the anger, talk about all of the things.
Mhm.
When should a person would you recommend start a file, if you will, or to start their process? Because as you said, we're all actively dying.
Yesterday is when you should
Okay.
start your death file. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yesterday.
They're,
Okay.
they're, I mean, seriously, right now, right
Yeah.
now, I don't care if you're 80 years old or 40 years old or 20 years old, although it's going to be pretty hard to get a 20-year-old to talk about it. Or maybe not. I shouldn't make those kind of generalizations, but it's never too soon.
Very good. Yes.
And the sooner you start doing it, the more you'll understand kind of all of the aspects that are there, and the you'll have the luxury of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've gone back and forth about what I want done with my body after I die. I've gone back and forth for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I still, I'm sure it'll be different next week or next month. And starting the process now allows you to have the luxury. And
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to add that, like, I help people make death plans, basically end of life plans, if you don't like the word death, but I think we should get comfortable with the word death.
Okay.
They're not carved in stone,
It's
right?
a living document for
It's
death.
right, a living document for death. Thank you. Can I use it? And so you can go back and change it. And it's the same with wills. People update their wills, right?
Yeah.
Every 5 years or whenever the lawyer calls you and says, hey, it's time to update. Or you get divorced, or your spouse dies, or you disown your kid. And so you don't want them to have any of your assets. Those things need to be updated and can be updated. That's the beauty of them. And the death
Yeah.
plans that we have in place are, I hand them off to the person and I say, this is for you, and you can change it as you see fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you've just provided as a resource is you've written a book. And would you like to
Little
talk
book.
about that?
Yes, it's a little book available as a PDF download. And it's called Thinking Outside the Box, Eco-Friendly Options for Resting in Peace. So for those of us, more and more of us every day are getting really concerned about our environment and
Mm,
what's happening on the planet. And the old traditional ways of burial just aren't cutting it anymore. We are running
yeah.
out of space,
Yeah.
and traditional burial is really, really violent on the planet. And
Right.
also the embalming that is done is really violent on the person. And
Mm,
we can talk about that later if you want. So there are a lot of options. And, one of my favorites is called natural organic reduction, which is also known as human composting,
mm.
which is basically where they put you in this sort of plastic tub with some alfalfa and some hay, and your body naturally decomposes over about 3 to 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
No
I did.
chemicals needed. Yep.
I did read the book. I loved it. And
Oh,
what I
thank you.
haven't done is I don't know what the green options are here in Canada because you're in the
Yeah.
US. I'm in Canada. So you'd have to
Yes.
find out. But I learned so much about the different options now.
Yeah.
And not, unless you're in it, you might not be thinking, unless, of course, you're doing your end of life planning
Right. If you're
or,
doing your end of life planning with me, that's one of the first things we go for,
yeah.
because in a way that's almost easier because we all have values, right?
Mm,
And if one of your values is care for the earth, then we can look at greener options for
yeah.
your body disposition. If one of your values is you want a memorial place for your family to come and visit you, then that's a different
Mm-hmm.
thing that's a
Yeah.
different decision that you have to come to.
Yeah.
So we really start with looking at what your values are. and what you want your legacy to be.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people these days, it is going gently on the earth and easing that burden that we have on the earth as much as possible. And
Yes.
again, Canada, yeah, my book is really designed for the United States. And so I don't know a lot of the rules and regulations in Canada or the UK or Australia, or any other country. And also in the US, every state is different.
But I think it crosses the borders because it lets you know of what options the US has. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
sort of
Mhm.
cross pollination, if you will. But
Right.
it might be different where I live versus somebody who lives on the opposite end of Canada too, depending on where they live and what the rules are. So what I found it to be very thought provoking because I'm like, I didn't know that this was a thing. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it's available here, but now I can find out. A quick Google search will help answer those
Right.
questions, right?
Right. Was there one that caught your attention that
Um,
you feel drawn
I know,
to?
I know that I'm probably going to go cremated because that's probably the most common, but
Okay.
there is, what I don't know now, but there is, I think, a green burial within a drive from where I live, but I didn't confirm that.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
you forget about it too because everybody just it's just reflexive. Now, cremation, I think, is probably more common than
Mhm.
actual
It
burials.
is. It's much more common. You're talking about flame cremation, right? Because we do have
Yes,
water cremation. I don't know if Canada has it yet, and it's very limited in the United States, but that's another really great option.
that was very intriguing.
Hmm.
And so we don't know because if you're not thinking about it, you're not talking about it, or don't come across interesting, cool people like you that loves to talk about it,
Right.
and we don't know what's available. So when things are changing, and you're right, people are more conscious. The cost, I was my brother-in-law passed just over a year ago and cremation, and I was trying to think of what cremation was worth at a different time, but um it's just interesting. But it's not unless you're in it, are you having to compile and consume all this information. So as you said, start doing this yesterday. Find out what's
Yes.
options, find out what's available. If this isn't available, then I would like that. Or, you
Right.
know,
Right.
maybe there's something in the future that I wouldn't have researched that would be even better than doing this, then do that.
Right. Again, with the living, it's a living document. And, natural organic reduction, it started in Seattle, Washington, and it's legal now in 15 states.
Mm,
And that's growing. The interest is really growing, but there aren't facilities. So it's one of those chicken egg things. Like if people get interested in it and they start demanding, they talk to their funeral home and say, "Hey, I want to be human compost when
yeah.
I die." And the funeral home gets 100 calls like that.
Yeah.
It's going to start to change the culture, I think, calling your legislators and telling them what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If I mean, we haven't even touched on death with dignity, but that's a thing
Ah,
that's available in 11 states and DC. And, there's a bill on the New York governor's desk right now, and governors listen to constituents, right? If you want to make a change, you write, you call, you email.
mm.
And so it gets people thinking a little bit more forward, like thinking forward into your own death, I think is a really interesting and important piece of what we
That
can do.
is Canada and the Netherlands, I believe, are one and two in the world about providing that as an option
Right.
for
Yes,
people.
I'm envious.
And I think the conversation in my opinion, might become a bit more common because the children's book author Robert Munsch, which people might be familiar with, of uh, having written prolific children's books, is choosing to use, we call it MAID, medical
Right.
assisted in dying.
Hmm.
And based on a diagnosis that he has just received, is in the works, I believe. I'm not sure if he has passed just yet,
Hmm.
but that is another conversation, right? That is another
Yes,
conversation depending
that's
on I've had a family member passed that way.
Mm.
And I had a conversation with them because I didn't think it would be that close to home. And of course, immediately your resistance. So,
Right. You don't want that person to die.
right. Yes.
No, I don't want grandma to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I think about it, do I want grandma to suffer? Do I want grandma to go the way that she wants to go?
Mm-hmm.
It's that, again, it's taking ourselves out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be sad no matter what.
Exactly. Exactly.
Grandma
Yeah.
dies.
Exactly. And it's, allows some, depending on what has prompted them to go that route, some autonomy from the
Right,
process.
which is a super important value for a lot of us. Not
Exactly.
everyone, not every culture. I mean, that's the other thing. And I would like to just point out here that as your death doula, I'm not going to lead you in a certain way, right?
Mm,
I'm not going to say, well, Sherry, I think it's best if you go for this natural organic reduction.
yeah.
That's not my place,
Yeah.
right? I don't suggest, I don't advise, I don't negate what your wishes might be.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever spirituality you're bringing to your death process is absolutely fine with me. And I'm
Yeah.
not imposing any of my spiritual beliefs on you. So it's really, I want to just really note that death doulas don't do that. We are facilitators. We're not, we're not teachers or advisors. I mean, we are
Beautiful.
teachers. We're not advisors. We're
Yeah.
not your lawyer. We're not your financial planner, right?
Yeah.
It's really drawing out from you what it is that you want.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Um, I know we talked about this earlier about, will you help to mediate a conversation? Like, once, if you've met with somebody who has, you've helped them sort of get their ducks in a row, or their SHIT together, whichever language works for that client. Um, does that then help to empower them to talk to their family, or do you ever provide sort of a mediation between the two? Like, how, or I guess, is it just sort of organic? You just sort of um,
All the
provide.
above.
Okay. Yeah.
All the above, Sherry. I'm glad you brought that up. I am a trained mediator. It was part of my master's degree in
Okay.
bioethics.
Nice.
And I love that. Mediation is really trying to get everyone on the same page. And again, I'm not coercing, I'm not trying to convince. It's
Yeah.
not like a court of law
Yeah.
where this is the right way and this is not the right way. It's really just engendering a conversation where hopefully everyone can get on the same page. So I can, if you want to go and talk to your family alone, great. If you want me to come and mediate, I can do that as well. And I did mediate among a family, four siblings, and their father died and wanted to be cremated. Great.
Yeah.
He didn't say what he wanted done with the ashes. So each kid had a different idea what they wanted. One wanted his ashes to go be with their mother's ashes, which were buried in Austria, I think. Another one wanted to split the ashes four ways so they each would have them. Another one wanted to spread the ashes in their favorite family vacation spot. And the other one didn't really care. So she was like, I'll do whatever everybody wants. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that was really difficult. And it could have torn those four siblings apart.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little mistake that dad made, which happens.
Yeah.
But I was able to help them come to an agreement of what all four were okay with. So,
I just had a conversation with a good friend not long ago about how they've made adjustments to their requests, but how, because of their extensive travel as a family, her and her husband had, oh, well, put a little dash of me here, and then, travel here and put a little,
right,
and then she's like, now it's just not practical. Then it was like very romantic about how there's
right,
like going
right.
to be a piece of us, in all of our favorite locations. But now when you think today, the logistics of doing that
Yeah.
may not work as one would have initially thought. So you're right. Those kinds of conversations and leaving it blank is that's a decision, but that's not, I guess,
That's
helpful.
no, that's the very last way you want to leave it. And in terms of scattering ashes around the world, I will tell you that, bringing we brought my mom's ashes on an airplane, and it's a mess. It's not something I want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
It freaks out the people at TSA. It freaks out the people behind you. Like,
Yeah.
again, because they're just not comfortable. Like, oh my God, those are your mom's ashes, and they freak out. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
those are ashes.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate the frankness in which you approach this topic, because I think we need someone who's, trying to get heard, because often, we're whispering about this, or we're not talking about it at all.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
I love
mhm.
your approach. I love your language. I love your straightforward nature about this, because this is something that everybody benefits from having the conversation about.
Yes.
Everybody benefits from jotting this stuff down. Everybody benefits, because if nobody knows, then somebody else who is laden with your loss has to make all these decisions from scratch. And
Mhm.
sometimes those decisions have to be made hastily. And then in reflection, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. So that could
Mhm.
cause another layer of grieving. Um,
Definitely.
so it's a living document for the death. I'm going to use that one more time, and then uh, I'll release it to you. But it is important. And I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to have this conversation.
Well, it's been really great talking with you. And yes, I could go on for another couple hours. So,
No doubt. But you do offer death cafes and virtual ones. So you do have some different
yes.
offerings to sort of for people to maybe dip their toes in a little bit. Um,
Absolutely. Yep. You can do an hour consult with me, just to kind of get your feet wet a little bit. I do death cafes. I will meet with families.
yeah.
If you're in Philadelphia, that's where I live, or even New York City, where I go a lot. We can have death dinners. Those are fun. Or even in-person meetings, in Philly and in New York City.
Yeah.
So,
And I do know that there are death doulas here in Canada.
mhm.
And I did meet one a few years ago. And so I'm not sure if I don't know if it comes from the same source of that process, but it is something that for assistance, that you can get somebody who is impartial, as you said,
Yes,
help you to make some decisions, help you to mediate with family if necessary, and to just even hold space for them to talk about what it is that they want and need. And that in itself is a tremendous gift, right?
definitely. And for Canadians, I would encourage you to look at Willow, End of Life. It's a group based out of BC. I believe they're in Vancouver. They might be in Victoria. I can't remember.
Okay.
I've worked with them for a couple of years and utilized their information and their services, and they're really wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful group of people. So it's Willow, End of Life.
Thank you. Well, TJ, I so enjoy reading your Substack,
Thank
which
you.
is especially your last one about how to bring up death at the turkey table or your Thanksgiving table in order to stop politics talk at the table.
Yes.
Clutch. That was so good. Um, in the post, I'll provide the links to get in touch with TJ or to learn more about what she offers and what she does, so that maybe wherever you live, you might want to seek somebody out who does something similar, or maybe talk to her about getting a resource as well. She is a snappy, smart, love to read her stuff on Substack. There's a link there to follow her, and other ways that you can connect with her via social media. And always, keep in touch to have a
Yes.
chance to have a conversation about death, because Hey, if we don't talk about it, then it's just going to stay quiet. So let's just keep talking about it.
That's right. And no question is inappropriate or scary. Ask
Yep.
anything you want.
Yep.
And I'm always happy to take emails or phone calls or anything. But yeah, ask me anything.
I love that. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, Sherry.
look forward to more conversations in the future.
Yes, definitely. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.